welcome to another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. So, this year has been crazy in elections. I mean, oh my gosh, it's so much going on right now. I mean, each party is like catfighting, like it's reality TV. I mean, you got the Republicans, GOP tearing each other down like the Hunger Games, and now you're looking for the tribute over here in the Democratic Party. They're both tearing each other. It's a catfight. You know, when I entered this, I thought it was going to be, Hillary versus any of these other lessers. But as this race has continued, there's this underdog that his name is Bernie Sanders, and he is deciding to come against Queen Hillary for the throne. It is what it is. But my audience, is very split on this issue. I just want to say that none of the people that are in my audience are racist, so there's no Republicans here today. But I will say that the best thing about it is that what's great about this situation is that we have a very nuanced group of people that's divided on which Democratic person they're going to elect. Duly note, disclaimer, Democratic Party does not necessarily represent progress. Look at Philadelphia. We've had Democratic mayors, elected officials that come in this city all the time. Do they produce good results? I mean, we are living in one of the largest rates of poverty for a major city in America. So let's just put that there to let you know that being a Democrat does not equal anything. But if we have to pick the lesser of the evil, I think it would be smart that we do elect a Democrat for the presidential nomination and win come November. So with that being said, I must introduce both candidates that are in this arena. You have Hillary Clinton, a seasoned, experienced candidate who's running. She is the former First Lady, Senator, Secretary of State, just everything. But she has sometimes made some gaffes and some mistakes in some of her rhetoric and some of the things she said. She's unfairly, being responsible for all the mess her husband made, but at the end of the day, she cleaned up her husband's mess in other ways, that. Now we have Bernie Sanders, an old, experienced man. If we stand together, he's that guy, unifying people in different ways for the people on issues, but not necessarily on gun issues. Youthful, very much inept, has a lot of celebrity endorsements. Killer Mike speaks really well of him. He seems in touch with the times. He's a strong socialist type interest that's got a lot of people in this country, rallying behind him. But of course, Bernie bros don't find any flaws in him, and you know that every politician has flaws. So, with that being said, I'm going to show different perceptions. I want to get someone in the audience that supports Hillary Clinton. If there was a primary right now, if there was a vote right now, I want to know in this audience who would support Hillary Clinton and why. Anyone? No one here? Yes. Great. Oh, it's a woman too. Wonderful. What's your name? State your name. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Lauren Footman.
Hi, Lauren. Nice to meet you. So, why are you voting for Hillary in the primary over Bernie Sanders coming up?
I just think that Bernie is not as realistic. I think that he promises a lot of unrealistic expectations that he can't actually meet. And I think that Hillary recognizes that she doesn't get everything. She doesn't say that she technically understands race. I think that we saw in the last debate when he even talked about ghettos, we constantly see that he just has this surface level of understanding of like racial dynamics and inequities. And so I think when you start going deeper and looking at experience, he just isn't a good candidate.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you. That was a read, wasn't it? She said, ghetto's equity, he is just not up to par. She didn't say she didn't like him. I like Bernie Sanders. I think he's a great guy. He sounds cool. He seems decent. But I mean, he's making some big proposals. And, there was another man 8 years ago who made some big proposals too. He was a nice looking guy. I think he should be president again. But where was the change? Did we see that change as much as we thought it was? And there's other elements to why that happened. I mean, there's, systemic racism, a divided Congress that will block any and everything that seems progressive. So what makes you think this old Jewish white man who, just kind of has this very staunch, aggressive socialist approach is going to topple that of our first black president. But there are some people here who think he might be able to, and there's some staunch Bernie supporters. So let's hear what a Bernie supporter has to say. Anyone? Sure. Come on. Oh, a woman too.
Hello,
Hi.
everyone. My name is Melissa Robbins, and I am a staunch Bernie Sanders supporter. And the reason why I think Bernie will be great for America is because Bernie has been out on the front lines for poor people, for underserved people, for decades. When Ms. Hillary Clinton was totally opposed to gay rights, when Ms. Hillary Clinton called black children super predators and told the nation that we needed to bring them to heel. Do you not bring animals to heel? But I digress. Bernie, on the other hand, has gotten locked up. He's been arrested. Early on, when he was in Chicago as a student, he, was on the front lines protesting for the rights of fair housing with students. Bernie is a man who is a man of conviction, and he does not flip-flop on his position. On the other hand, Hillary has demonstrated to us time and time again. Recently, she praised Nancy Reagan. We know in the 80s that both the Reagans refused to acknowledge people who were dying of HIV and AIDS, and when she's put in a position and made to apologize, she will say whatever is necessary in order to get the vote. I'm offended and I'm appalled, and Bernie is the right man for the right time. If the people stand up and support Bernie, I think America will change.
So, well, I will say this much. Beautiful rhetoric. President had great rhetoric, spoke the same amount of change, said wonderful things that uplifted people, made people believe. And the interesting thing is that when you're the senator of Vermont, how many people ever been to Vermont in this audience? You've been, 2 people, okay. Most people haven't. How many of y'all been to New York? Exactly. So when you're looking at what areas that you're representing, politics is sticky. And when you're looking at the confines of being a woman in those situations and being judged, you recognize you have to put things in context with time. So people say Hillary wasn't supportive of LGBT marriage, and that was back in the 90s before she was actually a state senator. This was before she was actually a senator. This was in 1998 that she said she wasn't for same-sex marriages. But do you know how many other people were not for same-sex marriages? Everybody. There was really no one that pressed for those issues historically. When you look at the 90s, there was hardly letting gay characters be on television. Like, when you're taking into context, how many people actually could win pushing for LGBT rights in any major city in New York or anywhere else? When you're looking at the 90s, that was what it was. Don't act like 5 years ago, this audience and this demographic would have allowed for a black host like myself to do a show and be openly gay and thrive and slay. That was not the norm 5 years ago. So you take it back 15 years ago, and that's the reality. So I think when we say what it is, I want to make some facts. 93% of her voting record is identical to Bernie Sanders. What we're judging her based on is transactions that she made not when she was in office, but when she was there. Now, let's put this all into conflict. So there's this super predator, these quotes. The words misspoke, and she's addressed them numerous times, and she's apologized for them. Whether she means it or not, who knows, but it was 20 years ago. How many people out here are old enough to have done something 20 years ago they regret they did later on? Thank you. How many people said things about communities of people that they didn't know anything about 20 years ago that looking back now, would you rather people not put that out there in public? Thank you. So with that being said, when you're putting into context where she is now and you're looking at things, so let's talk about that super predator term, right? We're talking about that 1994 Violence and Prevention Act, right? That's the big, elephant in the room, right? Everyone knows that bill was what kicked off mass incarceration. But did you know how many people supported that bill? It was black organizations, it was black politicians, it was community leaders, and they wanted to do what? They wanted to get crime off the streets because it was a problem. Now we know during the Reagan era, the drugs and all that would put that in the communities and cause that crime, but then when it became an issue, like what we're dealing with in Philadelphia now with the gun violence and everything else, we knew that crime was high. The problem is we put the cart before the horse when we say things like, okay, we need to clean up the crime, but how do you clean up the crime? Arrests have to be made, something has to happen. At the end of the day, even though many of those men were, put under 3 strikes rules and put under crazy circumstances in order to get it done, people didn't care because people just wanted the results. It was like, I don't care how, people didn't think then. It was like, I don't care how you do it, just get it done. And the reality was respectability politics was not even a term back then. The reality was that at that time, respectability politics was something where people said, look, any black man with a hood on, whether he was black or not black, people were scared of them. And that was because of, the Willie Horton nonsense that was put out there in politics. It was that fear that people had of black people and of crime. And when you're looking at a political condition where communities wanted results, and you have people like Al Sharpton and all these guys up here speaking on behalf of the community, they were in favor. We forget that everyone now wants to say that Bill Clinton was the devil, but black folks said he was the first black president. Everyone liked him when he got on that saxophone, he got on TV, and he was doing all the shucking and jiving to get our votes. We all liked Clinton then. So, including his wife, right? So everybody was kind of supportive of him. So when that 1994, vote got passed that bill, of course his wife was going to support him. She was the first lady. Are we going to blame someone for going against their husband in office? Who's not going to stand by their man on a crime bill? Who wouldn't? Claire Underwood supports, Frank. And, you're going to ride or die for your partner, right? So she, of course, was going to support him. She couldn't change the bill. She had to support her man on it. Everybody does that. Let me not throw shade, but Michelle has supported Obama on some things across seas that, even though it doesn't affect us domestically, some people criticize that, right? But let's get to the nitty-gritty. That bill was voted on by Bernie Sanders. He voted for that bill. Where was your, progressive candidate when he voted for a bill that offset mass incarceration? You mad because she lobbied, but he voted. And lobbying is what makes votes happen. Oh, but then let's backtrack. Guess who authored the bill? The nation's first black president's VP, Joe Biden. He authored that bill. When he ran for office with Obama, no one said anything about that. Obama, why would you get a VP running mate that authored the bill that kicked off mass incarceration? Nobody cared. Nobody said anything. He got elected 2 times. So now we want to cherry pick which time and place we want to shift blame and focus. So you're going to put all the blame on Hillary for lobbying a bill that everybody else supported and voted on, has something to do with, but you didn't put that blame on her husband. You didn't put that blame on the author of the VP, Joe Biden. You're definitely not standing to the Sanders about why he voted for it. When in any debate has Sanders actually specifically talked about why he voted for that bill? We haven't heard it. It's not being talked about. We don't talk about how he's so for these issues, but when it comes to gun violence, he hasn't been the most big proponent. When you're looking at the other things that has been said about LGBT rights and marriages, in Vermont, did you know he voted against marriage equality in his state? Quiet, right? But every opportunity that Hillary has had the opportunity to actually vote, it doesn't matter what she said. We look at the voting record, she's voted in favor of those things. But I'm not going to hold no one accountable for what they did 20 years ago, because Sanders did some dirt, Hillary did some dirt. But when you're looking at the current contemporary confines of now, you won't win throwing history lessons back at one person but not at the other. If you're going to play the record on what someone did when what Hillary said back 20 years ago, you can't have the double standard of then not trying to hold Sanders accountable for things he did in the past. The issue is they want to talk about what he's doing now and what he's saying now, but he also made flaws. But that's because the political system and times were different. This country was more homophobic. This country was more fearful of black people across the board. They still are, but they express it more visibly. Now everybody has learned that, they say, oh, if I have gay friends, or if I go to Pride, or if I, go to a gay bar, I cannot be homophobic. It's like the same way people say, well, I'm not going to use the N-word. Now, if you don't use the N-word, as long as you don't use the N-word, white people think they're not racist, right? But then it'll be the same person in the room that will clench their purse while they're saying they're not racist. So there's double standards, to that. But I want to know what an undecided person thinks about this issue. Yes. Yes. State your name.
I'm Dave Anderson. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Confused, angry, upset.
Well, you're a black man. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of what it is. Big, tall, super predator-looking black guy. Here's the bottom line. Bernie Sanders is nice. He talks a good game. Hillary Clinton talks a great game as well. My issue with both of them is, first of all, I have yet to hear Hillary issue an apology to black people. I mean, an unequivocal apology to black people. But she has no problem doing the nay-nay as if that's what I do. I'm a grown man. My daughter works on your set. I don't nay-nay. I pay my taxes. I've never committed a crime. Hell, half my family are cops. I'm a pacifist. It's not what I do.
Right.
However, when I look at Bernie Sanders and we talk about things like reparations, which is not a foreign concept in this country.
it's
Native
not.
Americans have gotten reparations. Japanese Americans who were
That's
born here,
right.
just like I was born here, were taken from their homes, their businesses, everything was robbed, and they were put into internment camps. They got reparations.
right.
Bernie Sanders says reparations are divisive. However, he had no problem voting for Jewish reparations. So I'm so sick of black people feeling like they have to vote because of tradition. Because guess what? We got our heads beaten in. We got everything taken from us. We still go out and vote, and things continue to happen to us because we lay down and happen and just get happy because somebody plays a saxophone or Arsenio, or somebody's wife sits up there and changes her mind conveniently. You know, because I'm sure there are plenty of other people, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, Hitler, who had said things, 20 years into their whole situation, and then they're still held accountable for them. So at the end of the day, you just don't get to take it back and say, oops, sorry, I get a do-over. Now I voted for you. That doesn't mean that I like you. That's called playing politics.
Right.
So until such time as we actually look at both of them, neither of them is getting my vote. And that doesn't mean I'm voting for Trump either because he's an idiot, but we have to be smarter. And until I get reparations and an apology, I'm going to sit at home.
Thank you. So we got somebody sitting out for this race until he gets his 40 acres and a mule. I want to get someone else in the audience with those thoughts. Follow up with that. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
What's your name?
My name is Amber.
Hi, Amber.
Hi. So I just went to a conference in January about the Black radical tradition, and I was kind of like ignited and sparked by the idea of just that none of these candidates are doing anything for us as Black people. And we don't really need politics in order to be successful. I would personally rather just sit at home, or not sit at home, but create a community where we can all come together as a Black community and create our own system that serves us for us, and create training camps, create our own police system. Police was created to come and capture slaves that were running away. Obviously they're not going to support us. So how are we going to be better by doing that, right? And so the political system, the Constitution, we all know, is not created for us all men, but we were 3/5 of a person, not even. So I feel we came over as property. That's what they're going to treat us as. That's what they continue to treat us as. They cargo us out of the city whenever they want to build new things, temple is being created, but the new stadium with all the University City just taking over Black neighborhoods, schools being torn down. So what are they going to do for us? Nothing. So I think that we kind of need to come together as a people and kind of create a system for ourselves that's going to serve ourselves, because no one else is going to serve us for us.
Interesting. But in the words of Drake, lawyers and their commissary ain't gonna pay itself. So when you need taxes and bills, you laugh, but I hear what you're saying. But lawyers and commissary ain't gonna pay itself. And I say that with the regard that we're here and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Now unless, we get some type of money and, get a cruise line ship, then it's not happening. We got called Diddy, Jay-Z, and, Beyonce. I mean, when they choose and pick and choose when they want to, rep us, right? Then we can get a cruise ship line and sit us all there and redevelop and start everything over. I mean, it's not like Africa's been that developed as much as it should in most countries. So we could really come up in there and just really tear it up, right? We're not doing that. So at the end of the day, the reality is when you leave this show, when you stop watching your show and you turn off this show off your nice TV that you have to pay a Wi-Fi bill to and a cable bill to that you must keep on to watch this show next week, you want to be able to be in a position where you can be able to fiscally do that. And unfortunately, we don't have the mechanisms in place to just self-sustain ourselves in a country that is, was built by us, but was not necessarily built for us. Did you have something you wanted to add? Yes. I'm just curious about that. I just wonder what people think. Hi. How are you? That's a nice sweater. What's your name?
My name's Barry, and I think people I understand people are really excited and passionate about this election right now, but you have to consistently vote. I know people said that, no matter who you vote for, your school districts are still going to suck because, the state legislature hasn't passed.
No, Bernie is going to change that. If we stand together and work together to get this done, I mean, that's what he says.
I mean, but most of the things happen on a local level, taxes, education. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And people do this all the time. They vote during the presidential elections, and they forget to vote during the midterm. And then they get this racist congressperson and who just wants to take away everything away from them. So I think you have to consistently vote in every election. It can't just be a one-time thing. And I think that's what Bernie Sanders has done. He is attracting the younger electorate just like Obama did. So, I mean, that's one thing that he's doing. So.
Right, sure. All right, thanks. Oh, that's because the people out there who's not supporting Hillary are sexist. Okay, I just attempted to say that. I don't believe it. But I mean, it's something to interest. You know, some of these people out here, they just, they say she can't handle, Anyway, I don't know. I think, for me, I don't know. I just think that I'm all for local elections, local politics more than I am about these presidential races. I have gotten so local that it's like I feel like a vegan. I care more about local elections more than anything else. I think they're just more important. They're more sustainable. These races here on the ground matters more because you get to see these people walking down the street. How many people can get to bump into a mayor and be like, Mayor, what happened to those promises you made about stop and frisk? Like, I can see him walking out of City Hall. You know where their office is. You see their hearings every Thursday. You can go up there and look at them and say, you said this, you did that. You can have real experiences. How many of us will get to see Hillary Clinton? How many of us get to actually see Bernie Sanders and actually get to hold them accountable? Once they get elected, they go in that office and they put that gate on Pennsylvania Avenue and they don't want no one coming over there. And they don't even have to talk to us until they choose to. And when they do talk to us, they pick and choose who they want. They have these fake little conferences and dinners and they act like they're having a town hall and it's all their staffers' kids and it's just a mess, right? So, no, but that's true. That's exactly what happens. So in reality, the local elections matter more. And I think it's funny how, why is it that this old white man from Vermont or this, seasoned, woman who's been working for in New York can be able to get people, behind, get them behind and get them rallied up, in hashtags, I'm for her, or, I don't know what Bernie's people say. Oh, feel the burn? Yeah, okay, yeah. So, you have those groups of people that are supporting people behind all this work, but then I'm looking at the local level and I'm saying, okay, are you voted local? Have you voted in local ways? Do you know what's going on in these schools? Are you checking up on the schools? Are you checking up on, do you know who your local elected officials are? Do you know who's representing the school district? Do you know the issues of your schools? Do you know the issues that are affecting, communities and streets and all those issues? No. And then the joke is they expect, and then the thing is because they neglect the local politics all the time, stuff gets so messed up that then they have to look forward to another 4 years for a presidential candidate to hopefully come up with a magic bullet to save their hood and the rest of the country at the same damn time. It does not happen that way. It doesn't work that way. I agree with a lot of what you were saying earlier. One of the guests that was saying, we should, build more unified community organizing building. I agree with that, but it has to be under the confines of still the political system. And I think we can do that by supporting our own in the communities, local people that could be great elected officials, our state reps that's supposed to rep us, whatever. Those people, getting them more accountable, picking them. Because the problem with local elections, these crooks, yes, some of these crooks, they get elected. Well, we have someone indicted. So, I mean, come on. Our U.S. congressperson is indicted right now. Okay, so I'm sorry. But it's not a far stretch to imply that, possibly he could be a crook because the courts will define that very soon. And you running for office for a 12th term and you're indicted for money laundering and bank fraud and some other counts. I can't even count them all. Do y'all, can you shout them out what everything he's then gotten, indicted for? Yes. And so with that being said, it's just nuts to me that that's on the national level trickling down. Then when you start looking at our district attorney and our attorney general and all these people, this Porngate and all these scandals that happen, and then you talk about the crazy stop and frisk that happen, it's like Bernie can't fix that. Hillary, she can't fix that. She can promise that. They can all promise that, but they can't fix that. When the mayor who ran and said he was going to fix these issues, he's now kind of taking a back step a little bit and getting a little bit more nuanced, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, if your local elected officials can't get this stuff done to speed, Why are you putting all your energy in a presidential candidate that clearly is going to be more inspired by political money and gains and fundraiser donor dollars more than anything else? I mean, these local elections here, they can be broken. You can have more effect in making an upset on the local level than you can the presidential election. So I guess in conclusion, for me, I think, is that what I've learned is that I am probably going to still be for Hillary Clinton. I think that I'm just going to vote for somebody who is going to support. And I know Bernie people just hate Hillary, so you can just vote for Bernie, but I'll see you at the DNC in Philadelphia, okay? I'll see you at the DNC. And when she wins, I told my friend, I made an analogy to Beyonce and Kelly Rowland. Kelly said, oh, I got a new album coming out. And Beyonce's sitting there like Hillary saying, that's cute, boo, girl, make your album. I'll see you do your thing. You can make that album and, do that. But, when I do my acceptance speech, I'll make sure I, thank you when I go on that Grammy stage because you have no Grammys. I'm going to thank you on my acceptance speech. So I'm expecting Hillary to thank Bernie Sanders for, bringing her more to the center and bringing, a lot of the issues addressed to make her a stronger candidate to defeat Trump and to defeat Cruz and all those other crazy Republicans. So, in other words, I think that, I just wish there would be a great Republican that was a black Republican that was like not Ben Carson that made some sense, maybe on some Marco Rubio tip, but that's me just thinking, fantasizing. I wish Colin Powell would have ran for president, but that's another story. So, thank you so much for listening and watching, and tune in next week. Thank you.